A very good evening. I welcome you all in the online session on story writing, jointly conducted by R.S. Mundle Dharampet College of Arts and Commerce, Rajkumar Kevalramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences Nagpur. To conduct the session, we have among us Dr. Renuka Roy, working as an associate professor at S.K. Porwal College, Kamti. Various online offline sessions are being conducted by Roy Madam. On behalf of the host institutions, I welcome a very resourceful resource person, Dr. Roy, and request her to conduct the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Muhurin. Thank you for such a generous introduction. At the outset, allow me to thank all the collaborating colleges for giving me this opportunity to conduct this session on story writing. Dear student friends, story writing is one of the very interesting as well as very close to heart subject for the students all over this, all over the faculties. We have all listened to different stories. In fact, I'll say that we have grown up listening to stories, and that has developed our personality. When it comes to writing a story, that is a part of our curriculum, we face number of problems. This session especially focuses aims to focus on the skill of writing stories. So let us move ahead with story writing. I'll request madam to proceed with the coming slide. Yes, story writing, I would say it is a very creative form of writing. A person who is extremely creative. Creative क्या होता है? Creative जो होता है सृजनशील व्यक्ति, जो व्यक्ति नए तरीके से सोच सकता है, आउट ऑफ बॉक्स थिंकिंग कर सकता है, जिसका इमेजिनेशन मतलब कल्पना शक्ति इज वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, बहुत ही मजबूत है. He can write very one beautiful stories. It is a thing that we have been listening right from our childhood. बचपन से हम लोग स्टोरीज सुनते आ रहे हैं, and it is a part of our daily life. You know, हम किसी से कोई साधारण बात भी करते हैं तो हम उसको एक नरेटिव फॉर्म में सुनाते हैं. वी नरेट द थिंग टू दैट पर्सन, वी ट्राई टू मेक इट इंटरेस्टिंग, वी पुट डायलॉग्स, वी डिस्क्राइब द सेटिंग, we tell what has happened in the beginning, what then proceeded, and then what is the conclusion. So all this thing that we do voluntarily or involuntarily, which we have to do consciously in the case of story writing. So first most important quality of a story writer is his ability to write creatively. It is very useful quality, and he needs to communicate his ideas and capture the attention of the reader. Have you ever seen your grandmother, your mother telling you a story? We have all grown up. Our childhood has been, storehouse of such stories told by, related by our parents, our grandparents. We have heard the stories of fairies. We have heard the stories of, gods and goddesses. We have heard the stories of warriors, and the stories have become a part and parcel, a kind of motivating force in developing our personality. हमारे personality को develop करने का, हमको एक एक पर्सनालिटी बनाने का बहुत बड़ा योगदान होता है इन स्टोरीज में. द स्टोरीज दे ड्राइव होम मॉरल मैसेजेस. बहुत सारे मैसेजेस हमको इन स्टोरीज से मिलता है, that form our personality, that build our set of mind, and we get to decide what is ethical and what is unethical by listening to such stories. And these upbringing, they shape up to create our own creative stories. Nowadays the students, they are having a plethora of multiple platform where they can write their own stories. You can write stories not only for your examination but for your college magazine. There you can relate some incident that has happened to you in a form of a story. You can write in the blogs. You can write in your, in your Instagram posts some interesting stories about yourself that you wish to share with your friends. Madam, please the next slide. Yes. What are the qualities of interesting and effective creative writing? Story writing, that we have seen ki story writing is a creative form of writing. So what should be the integral, what should be the, idea behind how you should write your story? First and foremost thing is that your story should be original, your own. It should not be, actually we take inspiration from number of other masterpieces. We cannot build up a story. हम लोग कोई भी एक स्टोरी इन आइसोलेशन, मतलब अकेले में नहीं बना सकते, हमें कोई ना कोई इंस्पिरेशन लेना ही पड़ता है। बड़े बड़े जो राइटर्स हुए हैं उन लोगों ने भी अपने पहले जो महाकाव्य लिखे गए, अपने पहले जो बड़ी बड़ी लिटरेचर लिखी गई, उससे इंस्पायर होकर स्टोरी लिख लिया है। इफ वी टेक द एग्जांपल ऑफ शेक्सपियर, so all his great dramas, they were already there in the literature. So what Shakespeare has done, उन्होंने उसे रीशेप किया, रीमॉडल किया, और जो उनके एज की डिमांड है, उनके एरा की डिमांड है, उस तरह से उसको प्रेजेंट किया। हम देखते हैं रामायण, महाभारत, ये जो हमारे महाकाव्य है, इन्होंने बहुत सारे आगे जाकर लिटरेचर को छोटी छोटी स्टोरीज प्रदान की, और जिनके ऊपर अच्छे अच्छे काव्य, अच्छे अच्छे स्टोरीज लिखे गए। So originality is there, original form is there, but you can add your creativity in that. And जब आप स्टोरी लिख रहे हो, it should be something new, unique that you are writing. What are the things that you should do in writing, while writing a story? You have to give a lots of importance to the sensuousness of your story. सेंशसनेस क्या होता है? मतलब आपका स्टोरी जब कोई रीड करता है तो उसके ऑल 5 सेंसेस, सारे उसके जो सेंसेस हैं, उन्हें उसका ब्यूटी जो है उसको फील होना चाहिए। उस स्टोरी में ब्यूटीफुल साइट्स डिस्क्राइब करना चाहिए, अलग अलग कलर्स, नेचर के अलग अलग फॉर्म्स, लाइट्स, साउंड, नॉइसेस, इवन द फील, the touch, a mother touching a child, what will be the feel like. So all these things should come in your story. आपके स्टोरी में वो सब चीजों का रिफ्लेक्शन होना जरूरी है। At the same time, the narrator of the story should talk about his thoughts and his emotions. He has to use the adjectives and adverbs to enliven his stories, and give it a more vivid form. To elaborate the form, elaborate my point, I have taken an extract from Ruskin Bond's famous story. Madam, please, the next slide. This is a story titled The Woman on Platform 8, which appears in Ruskin Bond's The Night Train at Delhi. It is a very beautiful story of a boy who is waiting in the platform alone, all alone. I'll read out the story. You'll see how this story catered to all 5 senses of the reader. Reader अपने आंखों के सामने ये स्टोरी पढ़ते पढ़ते विजुअलाइज करने लगता है। हाउ ब्यूटिफुली द राइटर हैज express the thought process of the character. वो कैरेक्टर क्या सोच रहा है, what he is going through. It has been beautifully described here. It was my second year at boarding school. The narrator, here we get to know about the narrator, that he is a school boy. He says that it was a second year of my boarding school. I was sitting on platform number 8 at Ambala station. So the setting of the story is a platform of a station. आपको ये समझना है कैसे उन्होंने सेटिंग डिस्क्राइब किया है। अंबाला स्टेशन का प्लेटफॉर्म इज द सेटिंग ऑफ द स्टोरी। वेटिंग फॉर द नॉर्थ बाउंड ट्रेन, I think I was about 12 at the time. So he narrates, the characterization is being built up. So he was a 12 years old school going boy. My parents considered me old enough to travel alone, and I had arrived by bus at Ambala in the evening. Now Now there was a wait till midnight before my train arrived. So the boy has to wait till midnight. See, his anxiety has been very nicely, his thought process has been so wonderfully expressed. He is anxious. He has to wait till midnight. Most of the time, I had been pacing up and down the platform. Use of phrases, pacing up and down the platform. His body language, what he's doing, he is anxious. How would you get it? Because he is going back and forth in the same platform, browsing at the bookstall, feeding broken biscuits to the stray dogs. Train came and went. The platform would be quiet for a while, and then when a train arrived, it would be an inferno of heaving, shouting, agitated human bodies. So inferno is hell. Huh? So there will be so many people shouting, porters are carrying luggages, people are getting very upset, they do not want to leave their train. So all this thing, as the carriage door opened, a tide of people would sweep down upon the nervous little ticket collector at the gate. And every time this happened, I would be caught in a rush and swept outside the station. So he's a boy of 12 years. So with the rush, with the crowd, he would go outside the station. So the entire ambience of a very busy railway station has been described. It is a setting of the story. Now, tired of this game of ambling about the platform, I sat down on my suitcase and gazed dismally across the railway tracks. Trolleys rolled past me, and I was conscious of the cries of various vendors. The men who sold curds and lemons, sweetmeat sellers, newspaper boys. But I had lost interest in all, went on along the basic platform, and continued to stare across the railway track, feeling bored and a little lonely. So the entire feeling of the boy, his thought process, the sound, dragging of the trolley, crying of the vendors, and rolling of the trolleys on the platform, and meat seller selling his meats, all the sight, sound, and the atmosphere should cater to all your five senses. See how beautifully Ruskin Bond, of course, he is an expert. He is a master of his skill, and his use of language is very good. But reading such literature, reading such stories will give you idea how to capture the attention of the readers. So you have to describe the setting, you have to tell about the ambience, you have to describe the thought process of your characters, so that the characters come out very clearly. आपको आपके character का पूरा clearly वो सामने आने के लिए उनका thought process किस एम्बियंस में वो है, कौन से सेटिंग में है, आपका बिगनिंग कैसा होना चाहिए, आप किस तरह से उसको डिस्क्राइब करते हो, ऑल दिस थिंग्स आर वेरी एसेंशियल. ये सारी चीजें आपको बहुत ध्यान में रखना है. मैडम, द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज. Interesting and use of adjectives and adverbs. In the earlier side we have used what is adjective. Adjectives are the words that describes a person, the vendor, the nervous ticket seller or nervous ticketsman. So he was feeling lonely. How was he? He was lonely. The platform was bustling. Okay. The trolley was making sound, dragging of the trolley. Okay. People were rushing. Okay. So all these adjective and adverbs, some of the adverbs, they makes the narration lively. आपका narration बहुत ही लाइव होता है. The rabbit was rapidly moving. Rapidly कैसा जा रहा था? बहुत fast, very rapid. So all these words they add to your to the life to your narration. So the man was sleeping. Man was sleeping very peacefully. He was having a sound sleep. How was his sleep? It was sound sleep. तो आपको उसको describe करना है. You have to beautify. All these words, they add to the beauty. The tortoise was quite sluggish. It was very slow. The rabbit was very fast. So it gives the character to this. It gives the angle to the. It gives some of the it develops the characters by using such adjectives and adverbs. He was carefully filling up the things. How was he doing? He was doing carefully. Hmm? The boy was reckless in his behavior. So आपको उसका behavior के बारे में बताया गया है. How was he? He was reckless. He was doing it carelessly. Hmm? So you have to be very specific how you want to build your character, how you want to, where you want to drag your story. The night was very horrible. The lightning were flashing. So you have to use such describing words in order to make your narration interesting. You have to use number of figurative languages. Like figurative languages मतलब आपको बहुत सारे अलंकार यूज करने पड़ेंगे, similes, metaphors, comparison. Her face was so bright like the beaming moon. तो हमने क्या किया यहाँ पर, कंपैरिजन किया. वो लड़की, वो जो कैरेक्टर है, दैट हीरोइन, उसका फेस कैसा है, इट वाज वेरी ब्राइट. हाउ ब्राइट इट वाज, यू हैव मेड अ कंपैरिजन. आपने यहाँ पर सिमिली यूज किया, लाइक अ बीमिंग मून, लाइक अ ब्राइट मून. तो आपने यहाँ पर सिमिली यूज किया. ही वाज वेरी माइजर. आपने उसका माइजरलीनेस का, माइजर लाइक अ रैट, तो आपने उसके साथ में उसका सिमिली यूज किया. तो आपको एकदम ध्यान में आ जाएगा कि यू विल, योर नरेशन विल हैव अ काइंड ऑफ हाइटेंड इंटेंसिटी. उसका इंटेंसिटी जो है उस तरह से बढ़ जाएगा. सो यू हैव टू यूज सच सिमिलीज एंड मेटाफर्स इन योर in your language, in your expressions. And you have to make some unusual combination of words. आपको अलग अलग तरीके के combinations आपको यहाँ पर करने पड़ेंगे. The night was lonely and desolate. How was the night? Lonely. Lonely मतलब अकेला. Desolate. Desolate मतलब एकदम वीरान. See, at all, at one sentence you are creating a kind of setting of your story. The next time the person, the reader, he will be his attention will be actually arrested. आप उसका attention एकदम drag कर रहे कि my God, what will happen next? इसके आगे क्या होगा? Right? So this is how you have to use the language in your story. The next slide, please. So here is a very beautiful example taken from Somerset Maugham's one of the very oft anthologized short story. बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल एक शॉर्ट स्टोरी का एक्सट्रैक्ट फिर से हम लोग यहाँ पर पढ़ेंगे. ये एक बहुत ही फेमस राइटर है सॉमरसेट मॉम. उनके उनके शॉर्ट स्टोरी से मैंने ये लिया है. यू विल गेट नंबर ऑफ adjectives and adverbs, how it has been used in the story, and how mom has used figurative language in this story that I'll keep on describing. मैं आपको बताते जाऊंगी. हम लोग देखो पढ़ते हैं तो we are not that conscious, but when somebody will tell you how he has used such languages, you will learn this skill. When I was a very small boy, use of adjective here, I was made to learn by heart certain of the fables by La Fontaine, and the moral of each was carefully explained to me. How was it explained? It was explained carefully. So somebody might have told the narrator the moral of the story. Moral of the stories in fables by La Fontaine. Among those, I learned that ant and the grasshopper, which is devised to bring home to the young the useful lesson that in an imperfect world, industry is rewarded and giddiness punished. So, what was the story's moral? Moral of the story uh, of ant and the grasshopper was that if you are industrious means hardworking, so you will be rewarded, and if you are lazy, you will be punished. In this admirable fable, I apologize for telling something which everyone is politely but inexactly supposed to know. An ant spends a laborious summer gathering its winter store, while the grasshopper sits on a blade of grass singing to the sun. See how beautifully he has imagined. The world of the insects has been so wonderfully described. You feel as if they are one of the specimens of human being. The ant is a laborious specimen of human being who are working hard, while the grasshoppers are carefree and indulgent kind of person. बहुत ही carefree, बहुत ही lazy, जो पूरा summer बैठा बैठा क्या कर रहा है? He is just singing, he is just passing his time. Winter comes and the ant is comfortably provided for, but the grasshopper has empty larder. He goes to the ant and begs for a little food. Then the ant gives him her classic answer. Where were you doing? What were you doing in the summertime? Saving your presence. I sang. I sang all day and all night. So he says, I sang all day and all night. So he says, I sang all day and all night. Saving your presence. I sang all day and all night. So the grasshopper is yes. Yes, sorry for the interruption. From henceforth, the another part of the story starts. So we will skip. Now, what we have seen so far is that there should not be any lengthy description. So he gives a very brief introduction to the story about the ant and the grasshopper, and then his Somerset mom switched to his own story that he was going to narrate. In a similar manner, whatever might be your own beginning of the story, it should be very pithy, very concise, at the same time interesting. The first part of your story writing should arrest the attention of the readers. आपके स्टोरी राइटिंग का पहला जो पार्ट है, इट शुड नॉट बी वेरी लेंदी. वो आपके रीडर का जो अटेंशन है उसको उसने अरेस्ट करना चाहिए, उसको ध्यान, रीडर का ध्यान उसकी तरफ जाना चाहिए. मे बी इट इज अ डिस्क्रिप्शन of some natural environment, maybe it is some moral story that you are talking about, maybe you are talking about the setting. So आपको मैं यहाँ पर एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगी of a very famous novel by Thomas Hardy. It is Merchant of Venice. No, sorry, I'm sorry. Mayor of Casterbridge. The Mayor of Casterbridge. The beginning of the story, we read about the mayor, about that hairdresser. This man, he is having a very bad time, and he is moving on towards a fair. And there, he, in his recklessness, because he was drunk, he auctions his own wife and his daughter. So from here, the story starts. So the beginning should be very interesting. People are taken aback that such surprising thing has never happened in the history of human being, that a man has sold his wife and his daughter. My God. So the people's attention is, the reader's attention is at once captured by the writer. So such is the master stroke. You have to start your story by writing something very interesting, something very captivating to the attracting the attention of your reader. What we do, we in the story writing, most of the time we use the tense simple past tense, because the story is narrated about the event that has already happened in the past. जो इवेंट पास्ट में हो चुका है, उसके ही वही स्टोरी हम लोग बच्चों को बताते हैं. तो मोस्टली द मोस्ट ऑफ यूज टेंसेस, many a times the student come to us with the query that what ought to be the tense for a story writing. स्टोरी राइटिंग के लिए हमें किस टेंस का यूज करना है? I'll say that you have to make use of simple past tense. Once there was a beautiful lady. She was staying all alone in her house. She was not having any companion. One day, a little girl came to her house. So ये सारे देखिए sentences I am using simple past tense. So oft used tense for story writing is simple past tense. You have to make most of the use of simple past tense in your stories. आपने अभी तक जो भी मैंने दो examples आपको दिए, you will find that in those stories the writer has made use of simple past tense. उन्होंने राइटर ने simple past tense का उपयोग किया है. You have to organize your story very well. Before you start writing story, you should have the beginning of the story in your mind. You should know how the complications in the story, how the plot of the story will rise up. There will be complexities, there will be problems, and these problems will end up either in happy solutions or in some tragic solution, tragic ending. So आपको ये ग्राफ अपने माइंड में you have to organize right at the beginning before you start writing your story. आपका स्टोरी लिखने से पहले ही आपको उसको पूरा फॉर्म करने लेना है. That is beginning, middle and the end of the story. Whether your story is going to have a happy ending, that is a comic story, or whether your story is going to be a tragic one, that you need to decide. What should be the moral that you wish to teach by the end of your that you wish to drive home by the end of your storytelling? That also you need to understand. आप क्या moral, आप क्या बताना चाहोगे? What is the message that you want to tell? Not every time that you are giving any moral, but you are talking about some incident, you are talking about some twist, some very unexceptional happening in anybody's life. So that you should keep in mind. आपको उसको ध्यान में रखना है. You have to review, redraft and redraft your story. Your story has to go through lot many revisions. आपके stories में बहुत सारा revisions होना चाहिए. Now the next slide we will talk about what are the integral part of a story writing. First important part of a story writing is its character. Now character in a story is a person or animals, or any other thing can be the character of the story. You have to build the character. How are these characters? ये characters कैसे हैं? So what are their personality traits? वो आपको उनके dialogues through, उनका description through, physical description के through आपको उसके बारे में बताना है. What is the setting of the story? Where the story has taken place? We have seen the example that the earlier story by Ruskin Bond, the setting for that story was platform of Ambala station. Then you have to start with the sequence, that is beginning, middle and the end, that we have already discussed. So you should always have a plan that how am I going to draft my entire story. You should start writing a story with a plan in your mind. Okay, next. Now some important points that we need to keep in our mind. It is the dialogue, because dialogues in the story, that they instill life in the characters, and they reveal the characters real predisposition. Like have you ever heard Aesop's fables? So in the Aesop's fables you'll find even the animals are speaking. The wolf is speaking, the sheep is speaking. So they show their nature. The wolf is cunning. How do you know the wolf is playing, or the wolf is portrayed as a cunning character? Through his dialogues. How would you know that sheep is meek? You will get to know by its dialogue. How would you know that the bird is very free by nature and he wants to lead a happy and carefree life? By the dialogue. Aesop has used wonderful dialogues to develop his characters. Dialogues also help in creating the situations of conflict in the story. Stories में conflict या tension जो है, ये through the delivery of the people. How a person has talked, क्या गलत बोला गया जिसके थ्रू कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ. We have seen, if you read literature, you'll find number of such examples. I'll take the example of Shakespeare's King Lear, where King Lear, he he misunderstood his daughter because he believed that his daughter has misjudged him, devalued him through her dialogues. He could not understand. Hmm. So in Macbeth, the three witches, they talked about Macbeth's future, and that developed a kind of ambition in Macbeth. Macbeth में हम जैसे स्टोरी देखते हैं तो at the beginning of the story, three witches, तीन चुड़ैल Macbeth के सामने आते हैं and they prophesy, उसके भविष्यवाणी करते हैं, और इतना उसके लिए बहुत ही एम्बिशियस भविष्यवाणी करते हैं, और जिसके वजह से मैकबेथ खुद गलत तरीके से एम्बिशियस हो जाता है. सो these dialogues, they help the writers. राइटर को ज्यादा कुछ बोलने की, नरेशन में खुद घुसकर आने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है. दिस डायलॉग दे हेल्प द राइटर टू नरेट हिज ओन इंटेंशन. दे शो रादर देन टेल. तो ये राइटर का इंटेंशन कैसे प्रकट होता है? थ्रू द डायलॉग्स ऑफ हिज कैरेक्टर्स. उसके कैरेक्टर के डायलॉग से. कैरेक्टर कैसा है, स्टोरीज में कॉम्प्लिकेशंस अगर लाने हैं तो कैरेक्टर के मुंह से बुलवा लो गलत या सही बात. सो दैट brings the complications in the story. I'll go back to some mythical example. If there would not have been any, अगर कोई exchange of talk नहीं हुआ होता शूर्पणखा और लक्ष्मण के बीच में, अगर कोई उन लोगों में वादावाद नहीं होती, तो I don't feel that there would have been any progress in the story of Ramayana. तो वहां से कॉम्प्लिकेशंस शुरू होता है. कॉम्प्लिकेशन स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम डायलॉग. स्पीकिंग राइट और रॉन्ग थिंग्स लीड्स टू द कॉम्प्लिकेशन द स्टोरी. तो आपको ऐसे डायलॉग्स का बहुत महत्व है अपने स्टोरी राइटिंग में. नेक्स्ट, yes, some of the stories I would like the beginners to read. I would like to suggest here that you cannot start. आप अपना स्टोरी राइटिंग का प्रोसेस जो है आउट ऑफ वैक्यूम नहीं शुरू कर सकते. आपके पास कोई भी एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, आपने कुछ पढ़ा नहीं है. इफ यू डू नॉट रीड, यू कैन नॉट स्टार्ट राइटिंग स्टोरी आउट ऑफ वैक्यूम. यू हैव टू हैव सम good idea about how stories are written, how there are some good classics. तो कुछ suggestions मैं यहाँ पर, before I make an end of this presentation, I would like to give some suggestions that for the beginners they should start reading Aesop's fables. They're very small books, you know, बहुत छोटे books होते हैं, they are unputdownable. Once you take those books for reading, you won't feel like putting those books down. You know, they're wonderful stories of Arabian Nights. They are really good. Disney stories, they are really wonderful. Simple fairy tales, they have narrated number of beautiful aspects of life. आप अलग अलग चीजें उसमें से समझ पाते हो. योर इमेजिनेशन इज एट वंस स्टर्ड. आपका इमेजिनेशन जो है उसके वजह से उसको एक तरीके का क्या बोलेंगे, इंस्पिरेशन मिलता है. यू टेंड टू थिंक डिफरेंटली, यू नो, यू को ध्यान में आता है हाउ टू राइट द स्टोरी दैट गिव्स अ काइंड ऑफ विजुअल इफेक्ट टू योर रीडर्स. आपके रीडर्स को इतना ब्यूटीफुली विजुअलाइज करने जैसा राइटिंग आप कैसे कर पाते हो. सो दिस ब्यूटीफुल क्लासिक्स विल हेल्प यू आउट. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. Yes, here are some of the very interesting as well as famous stories. You can read Sherlock Holmes and you can see how the ambience has been built, how the characters they develop, how the plot unravels. किस तरह से plot खुलता है, कैसे ambience बनता है, कैसे character develop होता है, and how the suspense is maintained till it is open at the end. You can read and enjoy Sudha Murthy's stories and see how colorful daily चीजें कैसा beautiful हो सकता है. your daily experiences can be so beautiful, is very nicely depicted, very nicely shown in Sudha Murthy stories. Sudha Murthy के बहुत सुंदर stories के collection आपको मिलेंगे for the beginners, I'm telling. So they can read these stories. They are extremely enjoyable. At the same time, the beauty has come out of the mundane, common life के रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी के एक्सपीरियंस से मूर्ति ने बहुत अच्छे से ब्यूटी डेपिक्ट किया है. हैरी पॉटर टेक्स यू टू द लैंड ऑफ इमेजिनेशन. आप इमेजिनेशन की फ्लाइट उसमें आप महसूस कर सकते हो. एट द सेम टाइम योर वोकैबुलरी विल बी इनरिच्ड. आपका लैंग्वेज बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा. It's a wonderful English, that has been used here. The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. We have all seen it in the movie form, and the book is also extremely interesting. So I will I will request all my student friends to just enjoy reading these books. Sherlock Holmes, they come in series. You will enjoy. Even Harry Potter, they come in series. Sudha Murthy's books, there are a number of books that are available. Even in your libraries, you'll find it in the form of PDF online. So you download and you just read this beautiful, works. The next slide. And at the end, I would like to say that the most important thing that reading is the exercise is to mind as exercise is to body. You have to keep on reading so as your skill of writing down will develop. You will not be able to write without your own idea of what is being already written. The classics. Without a reading habit, children simply do not have a chance. So there is no alternative to reading. Nowadays, it is very simple because all of us, we are having mobile phones, we are having internet facilities, and all the books, all the beautiful books that I have now talked about, Ruskin Bond, Somerset Maugham, O. Henry, and other beginners books, they are all available online in PDF form. So you can read them and you can get the idea how the story is written and developed. So reading will be the first step of developing your creativity, your skill of writing. I'm really thankful to Dr. Madhavi Mohri Madam for patiently being with me and for helping in showing these slides to our students. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity. I feel that this session on reading skills will be a little bit of help to our students. Session on story writing will be of some help to our students who really wish to write their own original story, not only for their examination, but in their real lives also. Nowadays, there is a huge platform open for the creative writers. Students can write their own blogs. They can write in the creative magazines. They can write for the newspapers also. So you should hone this skill for yourself. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Over to Madhavi Madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed a very interesting session and very interesting presentation as well. In her session, Madam covered all the significant aspects of story writing. I express a sense of gratitude to her for conducting such a very interesting session. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are sure that the students will be immensely benefited through her very wonderful presentation and explanations. On behalf of the host institutions, R.S. Mundle Dharampet Arts and Commerce College, Rajkumar Keval Ramani Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Vasantrao Naik Government Institute of Arts and Social Sciences, Nagpur, I express again a sense of gratitude to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And here we end the session. Thank you.